So, welcome to our third interview of our fellowship students for 2025. And these are in preparation for our Intertwined exhibition, their graduation show that will be on at Farfield. And today I am absolutely privileged to introduce to you Hilary Porter, who makes the most incredible felt. She is one of the most thoughtful people I know. She's so sensitive and beautiful, and I cannot wait to bring this interview to you. So, as ever, it's the same 5 questions. So, question number one to you, Hilary, is what is the inspiration behind your work?
Well, as you can see here, it's the natural world, but particularly for the last couple of years, I suppose, it has been the seashore and um, what you can find on it, but not necessarily the treasure bits. Um, it's all rocks, I think, and the effect that the sea and the environment has had on them. Um, I particularly like to feel rocks and stones. This looks quite ordinary, I think, to most people, but when I look at it, I see this beautiful shape, um, wonderful coloration, the yellows and greys and whites and greens. But also, when I feel it in my hand, it's warm, it's not cold, and it has a beautiful feel in my hand. Um, and it's something which speaks to me.
And that's your way of drawing, isn't it? To hold it and to feel it.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're right. I want to touch everything, which is a nightmare, obviously, if you're going around a gallery where you can't touch everything. But if I see texture, I want to touch it. And this it looks so smooth, but it's not. It's full of texture, and it's full of a story about its life and how it's been rolled around and what animals have had a go at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, um, I've had this passion for a while with these rocks and stones, which I think comes from my not entirely, but my mother was somebody who was born by the sea and always wanted to live by the sea, and she never did after her first few years living there. And whenever we went to the beach, usually Brighton, she would be her eyes would be glued to the pebbles and looking for things, whatever. And I think I got that love of doing that from her, and I love nothing more. I don't look well. Obviously I do look at the seascape, but it's I'm often just stooped down looking at what there is beneath my feet. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I just love the way you've talked about this very neutral pebble. And I'm looking at it now and seeing all those beautiful nuances that you've just told me about and shown me, and the beautiful, subtle differences in, you know, how white is white, but there's yellows and golds in there and greys, all sorts of things going on. And as you pointed out, those subtle marks and things that are more extreme in this one. You can see it more contrasty in this one, but in this one, you've just really helped me to see it. And drawing is about acquiring knowledge, and you've just helped me to acquire knowledge of that stone.
Well,
Thank you.
that's really interesting. Um, and I mean, originally I would be drawn just to colour and or pattern and shape, but the more I sort of think about these things, think about what rocks are and where they are, um, I can appreciate almost any rock. And I'd like to mention here an artist on the Isle of Harris in the Outer Hebrides, a sculptor called Nikolai Globe, and he does very sort of elemental ceramics using clay and glass and taking them to ferociously high temperatures. But he talks about his inspiration as being that liminal space that humans take up between the earth and the sky. And when he said that to me, it made so much sense because of my passion for these things, because that's where we live. That's where we are, in this tiny, tiny slice of the universe. And there's so much below us in the earth, and obviously the universe is endless, or our universe, and then more. That in itself is wondrous and makes you feel very small, and yet for an individual there is so much in that liminal space. And these, I feel that we are, as humans, the same as these, in that we're here for a short time, these are here for much longer than we are, but none of us are going to be here forever, and we all exist in this liminal space. And that just means lots to me.
Yeah, it's wonderful that concept of liminal space is something that I work with quite a bit, and for me it's the gap between seeing something beautiful and making the art, that there's that liminal space where you're not sure, it's empty, and you're waiting to fill it with your creativity and for that to come out. So it's wonderful to hear it in a different format.
Yes.
It really resonates with me, that concept and that idea. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with what you're saying there. I think it's very, very important for us as human beings to take that on, to understand that we are in that space. And art, to me, art should be about us as humans and saying something about humanity and being and how we are.
Yeah, and we're getting less patient with liminal space, and rushing at the world and expecting the world to rush at us. And actually, that pause and sitting and accepting that liminal space as being amazingly important, that we then can breathe and then progress, whether it's through creativity or just sitting and being. I think it's something that we're getting less patient with, and wanting to rush those thought patterns, those getting on with the work, getting on with the job, and things. And we need to take more time to pause. And I love haiku poetry because it's in a breath, and it makes you pause. And I think that is what you do. You make us pause, and I love that about your work. And you look at the work of other artists as well, don't you? Who make you pause. You're actually a great collector of artwork. But we went to an exhibition together as a group. We went down to Tate Modern to go and see Magdalena Abakanovitz's exhibition at Tate Modern, and all of us were really affected by it. Not just the work, but actually the experience of being together at the exhibition. But you were really taken with this piece, weren't you?
I certainly was. In fact, it was wonderful to read her story and to see the progression of her work. And I agree with you, it was a fabulous weekend to see that work, but also with the group, the fellowship group, because we all took something different, and yet we all took something the same from it, which was how wonderful it was, and the scale of it, and the fact that it made us all feel something. So I loved this. in fact, most of her weaving I love, but this in particular because it's so sculptural, and it's the textures in it and the movement, but also it says, I think it says something very human. There's also a sort of an element of birth from it, or of chrysalis with something coming out. I just love it. And I look at these photographs of shorelines and water, and I see those same rhythms in her work, which really excites me. I also felt, seeing her exhibition, I felt it gave me confidence to move in a direction that I wanted to go in but wasn't sure about. And I think most people can relate to this feeling. I wasn't sure if it was right to go in the direction I felt I wanted to. And seeing her works, I felt it gave me license, or yes, just the confidence to just pursue where I wanted to go. It didn't have to look like something in particular. But it had to have emotion, and I think her stuff really does have emotion.
And I think that, you know, she's part of this group in the 60s and 70s that progressed this free weaving format. There's herself, Sheila Hicks, that we've had an exhibition in the last few years at the Hepworth. And they're people who take a material and play with it, and know their techniques and play and see what evolves from it, see how the material works within their fingers, within their hands, rather than strictly having a plan that you have to work to. And I think that really resonates for the way that you work. I love the way that you say it gave you permission to do what you do naturally. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I think of all of us, I mean, all of us were walking around with our hands in our pockets or behind our back because we really wanted to touch them. And you know, and just watching your fingers stroking the pictures here and following the rhythms, it would be great to have actually been able to go and be blindfolded and have your fingers run over the surface and be able to read it in a different way.
Bizarrely, I also felt like I wanted to give it a hug. Which is ludicrous in a way, but that's what it makes me feel. Yes, and permission is the right word you use there. I did feel it gave me permission because, again, and lots of people will understand this completely, that throughout my life I've always wanted to do things right, and I realise I've needed permission not to do things right, to do things differently.
To do it your way.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, question number 2 for you, Hilary, is how do you go about developing your techniques?
Right, well, originally when I started making felt, I wanted to make the finest felt you could ever come across, drapey and lovely, and this is where I've come to now. But what has excited me as I've gone along, or what has made sense to me, is manipulating the medium. And I love that feeling of the transformation from fibre to something else. And it can be smooth, well, a flattish fabric. It can make pebbles, which I have made here, or it can make, if you take it as far as you can, it can make this, which started out as flat, obviously, and quite big, maybe that sort of size, and with lots and lots of stuff in it. These pebbles and cords, fabric in there, and then going through the normal process of wetting and setting and rolling, and then manipulating. I mean, time and time again, drying it, wetting it, manipulating, throwing, and it shrunk up, obviously, and has come into this lovely sort of rock pool. Well, I think it's lovely. And what I really enjoy about that sort of process is that although I start out with a plan, I'm never quite sure what's going to turn out. And it's nearly always something that I really, really like.
It takes you months to make these pieces. You keep bringing them in month after month, and I look at it and go, you can't felt that any further. You can't felt that any further. And you do. You go back and you work it again and again, and your fingers are amazing. They must be so strong in the way that you can push the felt to its absolute extreme.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is something like that. You're right. But when people talk about, I think maybe Rachel talked about doing stuff in the evening just on her lap and making her cords. I would sit with a damp piece of felt and just fiddle with it and rub it and think, well, there's something emerging there, and I like it, so I'll make it happen more. And I honestly didn't think you could ever take felt to these extremes. And I still wonder whether I could do it more. What else would happen with this?
Well, Genghis Khan's armour was actually made of felt, and it wasn't until I sort of pushed a piece of felt in the felt rolling machine that I could felt something partly the way towards what that must have been like, and go, oh, it could have been armour.
Yes.
And I think that you really do take it to those sort of extremes. I mean, this is really strong, but still pliable.
It's still pliable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to make these shapes. You see how it's all sort of on the back. It's all. I mean, even that I like.
I know, it's absolutely exquisite. And when you go back to the photographs of those stones that you had from the beach, that had those undulations in.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful, and that's what you're creating. So it is a form. It's both sides, and I love the preciousness of the colours on the inside, but also again almost that liminal space of non-colour, form and texture on the back of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, I'd be so tempted to stitch into that and fill it, because that's what I do. I overfill things, and you leave space.
In some things I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this gives me joy, and it emerges. It started out as something that I was enjoying doing, and then suddenly I go, wow. And I think, oh, the wool and I have worked together, and look what we've done.
Yes. It's a wonderful dance that you have with it, isn't it?
Yeah. So that is really taking that to an extreme, and that started out with several layers of felt and all inclusions and that. But then I thought, well, what can I do to make something light and airy? And so I made a vessel. And this started out, I mean, the previous one was only a little bit bigger, maybe 20% bigger than it was there. This one was probably over 50% bigger, more than that. And it has got a lot of fabric in it, different fabrics, but a tiny amount of wool. And just working at it, almost the same way as the thicker piece, and it's minimal rolling. I just set it really, and so that it's manageable in my hands, and then it's just rolling it in itself like that, to bring it down and to make this. I mean, this is,
It's exquisite.
I love it, and it stands up. It is a vessel, and you can put a candle in it. Well, obviously not a real one, but actually just in itself, in the window, and it casts shadows, and it's light and airy, but it's still taking the wool to its extreme.
Yeah, it really shows what wool can do.
Yes.
And the process of felt, you understand that.
Yes.
And, letting it grip all those fabrics and then pushing it to its absolute maximum shrinkage so that it can form the form and hold it with its own strength.
Yes.
It's absolutely amazing. And this is the one that you showed us on video last year, isn't it, that you made it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're curious about it, go to the Artie Bird Carnforth YouTube channel and look at the videos from 2024. And Hilary makes this on one of the videos. It's absolutely stunning process.
It is. I mean, I find it fascinating. If you look at that patch there is wool there, but it's just a wisp, and that's enough to have pulled all that in.
Yeah. And I mean, I just love this contrast between the heavy and the light.
Yeah.
And it just seems to make so much sense, especially when you're talking about that liminal space between land and sky.
Yes.
And
because it's all there, isn't it?
It's all there. And I just adore the contrast.
Because you have the compression that makes the rocks, the ancient compression of what's molten or not even molten, but from glaciers and that makes these rocks. But then you've got the water and the foam from that, and it's just all there.
Thank you. So question number 3, Hilary, is what is most important about your work for you?
Right. So this is a work in progress, which is going to go into the exhibition, and it is using the different techniques that I like to work with. So here is a rocky, sort of shelly maybe element. None of this is representational, but it speaks to me of the sea and the beach. And the watery aspect, is it water, is the very, very fine technique of using fabric. This was enormous, a piece of fabric with minimal fibre on it. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but working in felt for me is a meditative process. It takes me somewhere else. And in working towards this, I realise that it's a journey of thinking about my mother. And when she died a long time ago, 2004, I concentrated on my dad because he was on his own. And then 14 years later, one of my children died, followed quite swiftly by my dad. Now, I'd been waiting to grieve my mother until my dad died. And of course, I wasn't grieving my dad or my mum at that time. So I think it's through working through with my hands and in a medium, or using as my inspiration the sea and the beach, which was my mother's love. I feel that I'm working through, it's not about her as such, about my relationship with her and how I feel about her still. and just remembering things with her. And so there's a lot invested in this, and it's not finished. I don't know that there's going to be a lot more in it, but there will be some elements in it. And then it's working out how to present it.
Yes, and we've just had a wow moment, haven't we? Because you've
We
just
have.
laid it out for the camera to be able to talk over it. And we both looked at the screen and went, wow.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, and again, everybody will relate to this. When you're working on a piece, you don't, sometimes you don't have enough distance from it. You need not to see it for a while. And then to see it on a screen, I think, yeah, there are, however much I was worried about certain bits in it, I can see that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about my walks on the beach and looking down. And, the beach is there with the shells, with the pebbles and all the rest of it. And in one sense, it's just crazy chaos backdrop.
Yeah.
And then we spot that preciousness, that one pebble or that one
Yes.
shell that speaks to us, and it suddenly becomes the foreground.
Yes.
And I think this is doing that you've got that, it's almost a backdrop, and then we start to look at and just see these beautiful details. And I mean, I really want to come in and touch and
Yes.
come into and the shapes and things that are here. And I want to respond to this in just the way that I would respond to the beach.
Yes.
And, you were sort of saying the blue here of the backdrop could be water, and, and it is that froth coming in over
Yes.
them. And if you're really lucky, you can have no socks and shoes on, and you can
Yes.
have that
Yeah.
sort of trickling over your feet,
Yeah.
and the cold of it, and the joy of it. I mean, it is just absolutely stunning, and I'm so glad we've had a wow moment
Yes.
with it.
Yes. Well, I am too, because it's, and me saying wow is important, because sometimes you don't trust what other people say. You think, oh, well, they're just saying that to be nice. But if you can look, you need to start with liking what you're making, is enjoying what you're making. And so looking at it there, it says to me what I hoped it would say. It says, and it's saying that to me, even though, I made it, you think it would. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, and it is that process of putting your heart through your hands into your work that makes the work speak and resonate with yourself and with other people.
Yeah.
I just want to pick up on something that you said in this interview about grief. And I know that you have been part of a grief group, and you've been able to work through your own grief within the group, but you've also supported others who are grieving. And you've used your felt and working with your hands to help people to understand their grief. Could you just say a few words about that? Because I think that will be of interest to a number of people.
Yeah. So originally, in a very small group, the group decided they would like to do something creative, and this was quite early on. We'd all been bereaved of children at roughly the same time, and so I said I would do something with felt, and I did talk to Kate about it, about various practicalities of how to do it, but we made small pieces of felt with things, they put things in if they wanted to. I took them through the technique, and we did the wetting, setting and rolling, and it was actually quite quiet that session, but one person. Obviously beforehand I told them roughly what we were going to do and what they could bring to put in. And somebody had brought in a piece of clothing, a favourite piece of clothing of their child, and used it in their piece. And she cried the whole time she was making it, but it was a positive thing. It not positive, obviously, in lots of ways, but it was a cathartic thing, and it was the process of doing it. And she was absolutely thrilled with what came out. So much so that she went away and used the rest of the garment and made things for her mum and various other family members. Somebody else had brought hair from their child and incorporated it into their piece, and it became a very precious thing, and it was very beautiful what she produced. So that's one thing, and it gave us a quiet space in which we were using our hands, doing something creative, but our minds could start processing certain things. And it ended up as being a very positive thing to have done. Since then, in much bigger groups, when in sort of conference settings and that, people wanted to have a creative activity to present people with. So I get people to bring, or I have, rocks, pebbles, and they pick the colours they want. And I take them again through the very simple process of felting round a rock. They write on the rock or the pebble if they want to, and they don't have to show that to anybody. And then a lot of it is just the rubbing and rolling and then eventually wetting and what have you. And people chat and people laugh, and people choose colours that their child loved, or they choose colours which for them mean something in relation to their child, or just colours they just like. But everybody gets something different from it. But it is the using of the hands and the meditative part of it that really, it has quite a healing effect. And usually at not just the end of that session, but at the end of a day when that's been included in it, people go away feeling for a short while better. And this is part of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It really courageous of you to do that. Thank you so much. So our fourth question, Hilary, is what are the benefits of collaborative creativity? And I just want to set up this because I'm having a wow moment now.
Yes.
So thank you for this, Hilary. And this is my favourite piece that I created through all of the design modules that I've filmed, and it's a collage from the end of Shape that I make on camera as an example of creativity, and it's based on my shell. And the students from the fellowship, having been to London and seen Magdalena Aberkanowitz and doing the Whispers project, wanted to do another creative project, and this is in year 2. And you came to me and said, we want to devote a weekend to making something. So it was 2 days rather than 2 hours. And we all want the same image. And I had to choose the image. And then you would work from it for 2 days. And I thought, oh, 2 birds, 1 stone. I'm going to give you my favourite collage from the Shell exhibition, knowing that I could then include all the work within that exhibition. So yeah, a bit crafty maybe, but it was really exciting. And I didn't just present you with that on that weekend. I'd actually shown you the collage the previous month so that you could come with materials ready to work with, and you all work together in the same room for 2 days, completely engrossed in the making of this show them what you did.
Right, well, I, as you could have predicted, made a vessel. I have to say, when Kate showed us the collage, I was thinking, oh goodness, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to deal with that? But what the themes that I really took from it are this wonderful section in the middle, with the busyness either side. So I tried to emulate that sort of lovely flowing thing all the way through the top. I was finding it difficult getting around the top and round the bottom. It goes all the way through. And then trying to emulate some of the shapes that Kate has put in, and round the sides. I also wanted to try and do something that sort of echoes the layering. So I did put quite a lot of resists in. I think if I did it again, I would put more. But as Kate has alluded to before, I take quite a long time doing stuff. So if I had more time, I think I probably would have done. But it still gives some impression of the layering. There's that one there. And I did enjoy the process. I enjoyed the challenge. These are not colours I would have normally worked with, but I grew to love them. And the contrast, the purple and the yellow. But then I said to Kate this morning, why did I put that colour in? It doesn't appear anywhere.
Because your hand said so.
And that's what Kate said, because your hand said so, and I suppose that's right. It was there. It's something that needed to go in right there. So this is my response. It is not meant to be Kate's work, but it's obviously inspired by this work.
I find it really interesting because I kind of question, why is this one of my favourite pieces? And you sort of said to me this morning about how surprised you were at my colour palette within it.
Yeah.
And they were colours I'd identified from the shell in the colour section. And I actually didn't paint these papers up for the collage. I already had them left over from the colour module. But by now I'm working with them out of proportion.
Yeah.
So they're not in the proportion of the shell. And I'm just playing with them as pattern.
Yeah.
And it is towards the end of the shape module. So again, I've played with pattern. I've been colouring with these colours and seeing them together. And it was actually really freely cut and really freely put together, having been so formal with the pattern repeat and things. And I love it. I love it for the sharp shapes. And I look at it and sort of go, I want to weave this.
Yes.
And Sue did. She has woven a tapestry because she had 2 days. But what I love is the softness that you've brought into the felt. And I would have struggled, having fallen in love with the sharp shapes, I would struggle to have put it into the softness that you've given with the colour blending and the softness of the felt and those shapes bleeding into each other, rather than them sitting so dramatically and shoutily on the collage. I absolutely love the response, and I personally would now like to respond to your piece and see what I would have made, created, drawn from that. And we're back to the Whispers project again.
Yes, absolutely. But isn't that what being an artist, part of what being an artist is looking at each other's work and taking something from it, and it's to do with feeling too. It's not to do with well, technically she's done this and this, so how am I going to do that technically here? It's how you feel about it. and what's important about it to you. And there's so much movement in this. Yeah, you've got all the clean lines, straight lines, and just it's cut. But all that movement is I mean, that's what speaks to me out of it, and obviously the shapes. Yeah, it was a pleasure to do.
Yeah, and having you know, that group together making all those
Yeah.
pieces together, and you being able to see them and things. It was a magical weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It. I mean, our group is we're always saying how different our work is from each other, and yet we share values and ideas about art and what we're doing, but they come out in such different ways, and yeah, it's just really nice to work in that group
Yeah,
in that way.
it's a very special group.
Yeah, it is.
And the final question, Hilary, is how has taking part in the Artibird Fellowship Programme changed you personally?
A lot is the simple answer, but um, looking at this takes me back to the Whispers project, because this was my artwork, and it is called Oilseed Rape 21 by Mike Bell. It's mixed media, and we had 2 hours to make something, which was, to me, was just, I mean, insane. How can you make anything in 2 hours? But this was my response to my work, my piece of work that I brought in. You can see I made it in 2 hours because I had forgotten that this was dyed, and so the yellow is now ochre in that. Some of it was meant to be bright yellow, but yeah, I made this in 2 hours. Now, this was amazing to me, and it was what thrilled me about that whole week was that this was the first thing I made in 2 hours, and I went on to make, what was it, four more other pieces, each in 2 hours, and they were all different. And I thought that changed me. That made me think I have something that I can do. I have some creativity, because you can't make something instantly. Well, 2 hours is not instant, but it is to me. Without knowing what you're working with, and having learnt how to respond to other things. And that's what I got from Artibird. And it sort of came together for me during this project.
You had a confidence now, don't you? And you're able to articulate that very clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have more confidence. It's not completely there, but I have more. It just surprised me. It surprised me. It thrilled me. So but that was a culmination of the years I've been at Artibird, which are many, and it's to do with not just the teaching, which has been fabulous, and I have had to do stuff which I didn't want to do, which I found very, very difficult, but I've learnt from absolutely everything. But it's also the friendships and the group that we have.
And we laugh a lot, don't we? And
yes, probably too much, because we don't do enough on the
I think we do enough. But this was lovely, wasn't it? Because I planned this Whispers project with my brother, who's a mathematician, because I was really keen that people didn't follow the same person, that they followed each other. And my brother helped me to work out mathematically that actually wasn't possible. So I had to have two where we duplicated. But I was really caught up in my coloured Post-it notes and trying to, who was following who and things. And you'd made this, which was, just insanely innovative. and everybody was kind of in awe of you producing this in 2 hours. and Jen was at the other end of the room, and in her head and then out loud she was sort of going, don't give me Hilary's, don't give me Hilary's, don't give me Hilary's. And I kind of heard this mantra come as I walked down the classroom and presented her with it, because she was my post-it note who was receiving Hilary's.
Yes.
And she was just kind of like, oh, how do I respond to this? And we just laughed about it. And I think that laughter helped her to find a way in to responding to it.
Well, funnily enough, that week we had these time constraints, which were, as I have said time and time again, was worrying me to begin with. But it was so liberating in the end, because you just had to do something. And I couldn't sit and do what I normally do, which is think and think and think and think and think for about 3 weeks and then start something. Just had to get on and do it. And we all had a lot of fun, and we all produced stuff that we didn't know we would produce, didn't know we could produce. So it was fabulous.
And a lot of those things have underpinned the development of the work through the following year and on.
Definitely.
So I think as a process, it's liberating, as you say.
I think it is.
And it's a bit like 20 drawings in 20 minutes, 20 textiles in 2 hours sort of thing, that you actually respond in a very short period of time. And like you say, you can't let the brain interfere. You have to respond with the hands, with the heart, and just find out and discover.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have to say I did find it all difficult, but liberating as well.
Yeah, and
absolutely. Yes.
All of you were exhausted at the end of it. We could, if it had been a group of 20 people and we'd been doing it for 40 hours. It wouldn't have been sustainable.
No. But it's definitely something that I think would be good to do again in the future.
Yes.
I would love to know what we would do now.
And what you'd bring in.
What we'd bring in,
Because everybody brought in a piece of work from somebody else.
Yes.
And it was all flat work that was brought in.
It was, yes.
So it would be really interesting to see whether you brought in a piece of your own work or a three-dimensional piece. You've talked about the ceramicist. I know you have a piece of his work.
Yes.
And to actually respond to a different person's work, it would be very, very interesting. And I think that's something, because I know we're focusing at the moment because we've got a graduation show at the end of this year, but in the next year I think it would be really good to do another Whispers project, maybe using our one day a month where we're coming together to actually come in with something that you've worked on and swap around and do this again but in a different format.
Absolutely. I think that would I think we would all enjoy that, because we do enjoy each other's company and working together and looking at what each other has made.
Absolutely.
I think it feeds us. That, and that's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Otherwise don't come.
And I have always come, even in my darkest times when I didn't want to do anything, didn't want to get out of bed. The one thing that I kept doing was coming here. And sometimes I'd be driving down the motorway thinking, why am I doing this? Do I really want to? I don't feel like doing this, but it was worth it. I wouldn't have kept doing it if I hadn't been. And there's something that I've been able to draw something out of myself, which I didn't think was there. I'm still not sure if it really is. Is it real?
Yes.
But it's and that's what this course has done. Well, these years have done for me, and the fellowship is really the pinnacle. It's through the fellowship that I've discovered so much more about myself in relation to the medium that I'm working in, the felt making. Before that, I did lots and lots of techniques and loved some things and not other things. But it's through the fellowship that I think I found a way forward.
thank you, and I cannot wait to see the finished work on display at Farfield Mill this summer. Thank you, Hilary, for speaking with us so openly. It has been an absolute honour.